prior to the holding of an election, the Central Election Commission of Bosnia and Herzegovina shall announce the elections in accordance with this law and shall notify all competent authorities and the public at all levels when an election shall be conducted, unless otherwise provided by Chapter 14 of this law. This is some basic law things, not very interesting, but we are moving on to the election results. So first results are usually kind of known at the day of the elections are being held. So elections places are closed at 7, and right after that the counting ballots take place. And there are still present people who are political or non-political observers are still present, and they have every right to observe the process and to write down the results, and they are usually reporting the results to their political party or coalitions from where they are coming from. So usually around midnight there are some like non-official results that are being known. But the official results are we usually wait for them for a couple of days. This time we waited for less than a month, I think, and then all the spots for the mayors and for the city councils were confirmed. Of course, there are some places where political parties or coalitions have been reporting some frauds or something similar to that, and those places, those cities or municipalities will have another round of counting votes in order to check everything. What are the important changes? Here we put 3 cities: Tuzla, where Revolt is based, Sarajevo as a capital of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Banja Luka as the second biggest city after Sarajevo. Important changes are the ones that Tuzla didn't have many. We still have the same major. We kind of joke about that we have a Belarusian situation since this major is here already for 20 years. And but City Council had some nice changes. This time we are having 11 parties in the City Council that has 31 spots. And we see that as a good thing, because no political party or coalition will have majority, that simple majority, and they will have to compete against each other to prove themselves and their spot in the city council. When it comes to Sarajevo, all the national, not all, but many national parties were moved away by the leftist, or we call it like a citizen bloc, and they got some very big municipalities in the city of Sarajevo, and also the mayors of Sarajevo will be an old man, but who is like very strong to his beliefs, and he's a leftist guy, and also was had an important political role when it came to Yugoslavia. And in Banja Luka, their old mayor and his party, who had basically a monopoly on the city, have lost the elections against this young man. But he's still problematic. He had many homophobic and nationalistic sayings, and his politics is very populistic. And even though it is a change, doesn't guarantee anything good. And voter turnout this year, was very low. Tuzla had very, very low voter turnout. It was under 40%, but the general voter turnout was around 40%. So it was one of the lowest voter turnout as Bosnia and Herzegovina after the Yugoslavia started having their own elections, but on any level. That is this for this slide. Thanks. Here we have data from the November 17, where the official Central Election Committee has reported all the confirmed votes and how many of the ballots were not filled completely or correctly. And here it says that 5.99% of the voter ballots were not filled correctly. That's actually very bad. In the place where I was observing elections, there was around 200 people who voted, and we had 40 ballots for the mayor of the Tuzla who were not filled correctly, and that shows a bad political knowledge and everything. So that's sad. And now we're going to talk about a non-political coalition that call themselves pod lupom, or in English, under the magnifying glass. This year, they cooperated tightly with Revolt. Every year, they have one person who let's say coordinates the elections in every city. This year, they approached Revolt and asked us if we have someone who would be perfect for that role. And Maria Magdalena, who many of you know, was a coordinator for the city of Tuzla. Her role was to recruit people who will be non-political observers on the day of elections. And also she had a lot of meetings with political parties, independent politicians, and the institutions who were obliged to make sure that everything goes according to the plan. So a bit about the non-political coalition pod lupom under the magnifying glass is that they are present from 2012, and they are observing elections since then. They are observing both local and the general elections. And each year they conduct more and more people who are observing elections on behalf of them. Their mission is to have free and fair elections. So basically they don't care who wins or who loses. It's just that they want to make sure that that is voters' will and no one stole the elections, and that no thefts are being done, since that was very present in our election campaigns and election days, and it still is. You can see often that people take photos of their voter ballots, and when they exit the place, they show the photo to someone and then get 10 euros in return. So basically they sell their vote, and people who will work for this coalition are against that and try to make that not happening. But it is a very complicated situation, and it's not easy to do that. But yeah, we are happy that they approached Revolt and that they see us as an important role when it comes to elections. And even though Maria Magdalena had many issues and it was not an easy task, we are very happy with what she did. And I think that Revolt will stay an important role when it comes to elections and be an extended hand of them in Tuzla. For the outcome.
Sorry, bad.
No problem. For the outcome, they report everything to the to this central election committee, and usually this non-political coalition is an important role for people who are not observing but are just regular citizens, because people can see that something wrong is happening and report it to this non-political coalition, and people have much bigger assurance that non-political coalition will do something about those things that are happening incorrectly than the official institute, official body of the country. And that is a sad story, but it's happening. And this year they had a couple of press conferences, and during the day they were reporting how everything is going, and they were giving support to the citizens and their observers. Now we can move on, thanks. So Ajla and I thought that it's very important to see where are the Greens in Bosnia and Herzegovina and what about them. So officially there is no party that is registered as like Greens or that identify completely with green values, but we have like two bigger parties who are kind of aligned with green values, and those are a party that is called Or Party, but they have a good platform when it comes to supporting basic human rights and really take care about young people, and they see the issues on that field and try to take care of minorities. Even though they are not very persistent with that, they still work at least something when it comes to respecting those people. But their politics are very, on the economic field, very cooperative and liberal and not that much aligned with Greens. And the other one is Platform for the Progress. It's a very young party, only 2 or 3 years old, and they recruit a lot of young people. And yeah, when it comes to the environmental sphere of the Greens, they are the ones who we could align them with the Greens, but other things they place themselves very central, and we still don't know what are their important beliefs or how they see some situations that maybe could really identify them as Greens or not.
I'm just going to add one sentence here, and that is that in 2004, we had one Green Party in the entire country, and that was in Zenica, and that's all. They were only on those elections there and never again. So that's like really sad to hear.
Yeah, one more thing, there's a new party. This is called Libertarian Environmental Party, and they are saying that they work tightly with Možemo from Croatia, the Green Left coalition, but they didn't even got all the files to apply to be a member of city council in some cities. I know that in Tuzla they didn't get enough signatures. Their president is a former member of Social Democrats Party, and there was this one big thing that separated him from the party. But yeah, even though they kind of want to be close to the Greens, apparently they are not showing it to the people, and people don't recognize it. That's why they don't even have the enough signatures to apply for the elections. And yeah, you can see Revolt people here observing the elections. So on the top left corner, you see Maria Magdalena, who was a coordinator. Underneath her are Almasa, Merisa, and then the ginger one is Vesna. The male is Josip, and the one with the glasses is the other one with the glasses on the right side is Sara. All of them observed the elections. Actually, Revolt 11 people who are currently active in Revolt were also non-political observers. And we had this small campaign, one-day campaign, where we posted all the pictures. One important thing is to add that this weekend there have been elections for the city of Mostar. I will talk more about it, but Marisa was working in a call center of this coalition in order to support their observers in the city of Mostar.
So yes, now I will take over. Thank you, Anna, very much. And I will be talking about the elections and the election process in only one city in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So it must be really interesting that there is something happening only in one city. The reason why local elections in Mostar were not held the same day as the elections in the rest of the country. So we had elections in Bosnia and Herzegovina on 15th of November. And in Mostar, the elections happened only 2 days ago on Sunday. The reason is quite complicated, and it's a political situation in Mostar. But for the whole story, we have to go really back in time, and we have to go back to the 90s civil war in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So the city of Mostar is known for its beautiful city. Actually, it has many historical monuments, of which the old bridge is the most famous. And in the world, people know for this destination. It has many tourists, but the city also has many problems, and all of them started during the 90s war. During the war, the bridge was devastated, and people were divided, so that on the west side of the city, population is made mostly by the people of Croats, and on the east side were the Bosnians. After the war, sadly, the bridge was reconstructed. The people were kept divided. So we still have those two sides in Mostar. And during my time before the elections that I spent there, I actually heard the stories where people from one side are afraid and never go to the other side. I have to say, I'm not quite sure how much truth is in that, but that's a story that came many times. So it's not just once or twice. The whole city is divided. So we have to say that it has everything in twos. Like, for example, they have 2 water suppliers, 2 electricity suppliers, 2 different phone networks. Everything is in 2. And the reason for this was that after the war, since it was already divided into 2 sides, with the Dayton Agreement, the politicians agreed to divide it even more. So both of these sides get to have, inside of them, 3 municipalities. And each of these municipalities would have its own mayor. So they would have their own administration, they would have their own legal rights, and they would have their own government, their own councils. And it was too many. So imagine 1 city and 6 mayors. And people were sick of that. So in 2004, the Office of High Representative in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and was led by Paddy Ashdown, decided that things should change, and the statute of the city of Mostar should be changed. So they decided to stick with these 6 areas that we already had in Mostar, but they decided to add something more to it. So people in Mostar would have 2 lists. On one list, they would vote for people from their city area, and they would choose somebody usually from their own nationality. And then they would have another list where they could choose a member of city council that would be from all the city areas. On the end, the city had the city council with 35 seats, in which 18 members were coming from all the city areas, and the 17 of them was coming from the city list. The problem with this was that some city areas had a different population. And for example, if one had 3,000 people, 3,000 residents, they would give 1 city council. And if we have another one, for example, with 30,000 residents, they would also have 1 representative in the city council. So that was quite unfair. And mostly that didn't too much bother citizens as much as it bothered political parties, because they were the ones losing seats, mostly national parties. So the Croats actually decided in 2000, the last elections were held in 2008, and they were held by these principles: 35 seats, 17 and 18 members. But in 2010, the Croat side actually took it up to Bosnia and Herzegovina Constitutional Court, and they won they actually won on the court because the court found this to be very discriminative. Like for example, these residents in Bosnia, if they had like just 300 residents, they would choose one. It means that their vote matters more than a vote from a Croat person on the other side that has more residents. It can be seen as quite unfair. So in 2008, when this was declared discriminatory and it was ordered to be changed, everything in Mostar stopped. The mayor at the time was Ljuba Bešlić, and he kept on being mayor until the elections on Sunday. He was the first man in Mostar, and he didn't have anybody supervising him because city council was let go and he was in charge of everything in the city. I believe that budget that city had was around 230,000 millions of euros. So he could spend all that money on his own because he didn't have anybody supervising him. Of course, when you don't have a city council and you have only mayor, not everything, mayor can not do everything. He doesn't have enough power to do things. So that's why Mostar was left with many problems, like infrastructure, problem with the trash that was piling up. They also have one very specific problem where they have a hazardous waste that goes straight into wastewaters. And they were organizing many protests about it. Unfortunately, none of them was successful. And right now, the future city councils have a lot of work on their hands, and hopefully they will resolve this. The days I spent in Mostar were actually really amazing for me because I realized the city has a great potential. I mean, you can see so much of street art there, and people there are much willing to work for their city, but they are not being given the opportunity. And right now we have stopped at 2012. The elections were stopped. Everything was same in the city until 2019, when the citizen of Mostar, Irma Baralia, decided that she is going to file a suit. And she sued Bosnia and Herzegovina. She sued her city of Mostar on the European Human Rights Court for failing to hold elections, for actually denying people their right to vote, denying people their right to choose their representatives. She won. Unfortunately, this is not a picture of winning the lawsuit. This is a picture of actually winning the places in the city council on the elections 2 days ago. And according to the new, actually after the court gave us Bosnia and Herzegovina 1 year to find a new way to hold the elections. And the new way was not fully satisfactory for everyone, but it still made something move in people. It actually made a difference because at least they had elections. So it's a first step towards something new, towards building a greater and better Mostar. Right now, the situation is so that they will have 22 council members who will still be coming from the city areas, so city municipalities, and actually the number of the councils coming from all the city areas was lowered down to 13. And the people from the left-wing party and people from the opposition were not happy with this because this gives them disadvantage. And actually, when they were going into the elections, they were not starting at zero. They were starting below zero, which is like very, very bad positions to be. And about the election day itself in Mostar, it had really good voters turnout. I believe 55% of the voters, registered voters, had cast their ballots. It is actually, one can argue that it's quite a bad thing, quite bad percentage, but it's almost exactly same as in some European countries. And thinking of it as it's being first elections in Mostar after 12 years, I would say it's quite okay and quite good voters turnout. Hopefully they will be better next time as in rest of the Bosnia. And right now we have some preliminary results. They are not quite, I mean, not everything is quite final. So we can say that these results show that Croat and Bosniak parties actually won quite a lot of seats in the city council, where our left-wing and opposition right now in the city has won, I believe, seven places in the city council at this moment, which doesn't mean that won't change. And actually it can be quite, I don't know, funny and ironic that actually the parties who had left this city without city council for 12 years are right now the ones who will be leading that city council again. And now when it comes to Revolt and what we did in Mostar before elections, I have to say that it wasn't, we couldn't do it alone. And actually we were there together with the friends and colleagues from the campaign Tvoj glas je bitan, which we can translate as your voice is important, your voice matters. In Mostar, we were there just to make sure that people go and vote, mostly young people. And when I say young people, I will define it because throughout my presentation, I will be saying young people. And for Revolt, that is people between age of 18 and 30, people who can go vote and people who can be on the lists for being elected into city councils or for the other positions. Together with our friends, we actually had support from the regional NGOs, also from Serbia and Montenegro. And we did a number of the performances, a number of workshops, number of street talks with people, everything just to see what problems are the citizens of Mostar facing during the election time. What do they think? Will they have fair election? Are they happy about the elections? So we were quite happy to see that people have quite good political knowledge about not only about situation in Mostar, but also about their democratic rights, also about their right to vote and about the whole political situation. This is also part of the things we did days prior to the election, and this everything was done on the day of the election silence. So the election silence is a day where political parties are not allowed to approach citizens, but we were there and we were just telling people to go and vote. And now I will be speaking a little bit about Revolt's campaign before the elections. And our campaign was named When One Day is Worth 4 Years. And we wanted to show the significance of one day. I have to say that in Bosnia and Herzegovina, people are not quite aware yet that what difference the elections can make. The best example for it might be the municipality of Kalesija near Tuzla, which had the situation that at one point during the election, the mayors, actually the two candidates that ran for mayors had a difference of one vote, single vote, made a decision. And I have to say those candidates were not quite same in their political program. They were actually a bit different. So one vote actually made a difference. Now we can only imagine what happens during that day and how much it impacts our lives in the next 4 years. Our campaign started actually even before official election campaign. Official campaign is 1 month, actually 30 days prior to the elections. But we started our campaign this summer by organizing political activism school. Somehow we saw that young people in Bosnia and Herzegovina don't have enough background and don't have enough political knowledge to go out and vote, let alone to be the ones who are on the list, who are being elected into city councils or even to higher positions. During political activism school, we had many young people gathering, and we actually had, I believe Anna can correct me, but 8 out of 18 participants actually were on the list for the city council on these elections, and 4 of them was voted into city council. So it's in different cities. Unfortunately, no one was in Tuzla and the rest was in the rest of Bosnia and Herzegovina. It was very nice to actually see these young people during their campaign and see them on TV using knowledge that they learn about public speech right on our political activism school, and also many other things that we gave them. Now, official campaign, we started on 15th of October and it lasted until 15th of November. So like I said, 30 days prior to the election day. We opened it up with the exhibition named same as our campaign, When One Day is Worth 4 Years. We had many pictures coming in, but these are the 3 pictures that actually won. This was the first place, second place, and the third place. What we expected from the people applying to the exhibition is to show us everything that they find interesting about the election process and election campaign. So I believe that people were quite disappointed. As we can see, there is somebody who thinks that vote doesn't matter, that vote is like just something you can rip off from the people, or somebody who sees this as things that have stopped and will never start again, like this cycling road. It was many interesting pictures. It was hard to choose the best ones, but we had an independent commission that actually picked up the winners. So the next thing is a video interview with the young candidates for the city council of Tuzla, and I will play a little bit of the video, but unfortunately we still don't have it with titles on English. Hopefully we'll do it for the next election, but I will just show, I will go up with the sound, and you can see pictures of Tuzla, really beautiful, and I will explain what we actually did. We made a set of questions, and those questions were quite simple, and everyone in Revolt, all of our members, could answer it. It's something that every citizen should know, and it's mostly based around municipalities, about the election, about just general political knowledge. And what we expected is that the candidates for Tuzla City Council will also know the answer to these questions, because that's what they will be doing tomorrow. Once they are elected in the city council, these are the questions that they will be working with. These are the problems that they will be trying to solve. We had many good answers, but we also had like some answers that were quite funny, that were wrong, but they made us laugh. But I have to say, we had these interviews a couple of years ago, and this year we actually had candidates who show us that they are really ready to step up and they are ready to be chosen for the city councillors. In case somebody can understand Bosnian or Croat or Serbian language, we can send this video later to you, and you can watch it until the end. And I will go the next slide, and that is a public forum with young candidates for city council. Like I said, I will speak a lot about young candidates and young people in Bosnia and Herzegovina. What we did here is that we organized a forum with the candidates, and we also prepared a set of questions from Revolt and set of questions that were coming from the audience. And also we had a set of questions coming from the City Youth Council of Tuzla. And I have to say that the candidates were really great that night. They had answers to almost all our questions. They were really good prepared. I have to say that, yes, on this event, we had audience because it was still allowed in Tuzla because of pandemic. We had to cut number of the audience. As you can see, every second place had to be taken out. But we also streamed this event live on our Facebook and Instagram page. Yes, Anna?
You can finish.
Yeah, we also stream these events on our Instagram and Facebook pages, so people could ask questions that they wanted to ask a future city councillors. We had a really, really great time with them, and we had a lot of questions coming in also. I have to say that 2 candidates out of 4 that were participating in a public forum were chosen into city council, and I truly hope that they will do their best to justify the trust the people gave them on the election day.
One important thing is that on both, when we were doing those video interviews and also this public forum, we sent the calls to all the political parties who had their candidates for the Tuzla City Council. And even though not all of them answered back, we had a really nice group of people who was present at the events. And as Revolt usually does, we did it also this year. We called out the parties who didn't want to show their responsibility to the citizens of Tuzla by sending their candidate to the video interviews or the forum. That shows a lot about how they perceive the people of Tuzla and how they perceive the young candidates from their parties. There is this quota that all party should have, I think, 30% of young people on them, on the lists, and many parties gather people and put them like on the end of the list just to fulfill the quota and actually don't have a nice opinion or many faith by them.
Yeah, actually, I will just add that that's something that happens to the female politicians too. Because of those quotas that we have, 40% of women on the list and 13% of young people. Most of the time, political parties use this just to like put people on the list without any intentions for them to actually be elected and to participate in city councils, which is another problem. Hopefully, the city councilors will also do something about it. The next thing we had was a debate, actually confrontation of the candidates for the mayor of Tuzla. And here I have to say that Revolt is the only organization in the city that managed to gather all 6 of them, despite the fact that you can see here only 5, because the 6th one was the current mayor of Tuzla, who was elected again this year, and he couldn't join us physically because he was in contact with a person with a positive person on the coronavirus. So we had him on a Zoom meeting, but he was with us too. And I have to say, all the candidates had 3 minutes to answer their questions. Everything was moving really fast, and we couldn't. Unfortunately, we couldn't have any audience because already by the time we organized the debate, the situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina changed, and all the gatherings were not allowed. But we still organized this, and we streamed it live again on our Facebook. And we had people commenting their questions and the questions to the candidate. It was quite amazing. I have to say, in my opinion, that the candidates from the public forum, the young candidates, were much more prepared and better equipped than the actually candidates for the mayor. So the one very important thing for us in Revolt is a communication with citizens. We spend most of our times on the street talking to the people because we generally believe that our communication with them is what makes the biggest difference and the biggest impact. This year we had help from an organization from Banja Luka called Oštra Nula. It was really good for us to communicate with the NGOs that are coming from the other entity. Actually, they're coming from Republika Srpska, because we have 2 different political situations. We have 2 different, kinds of people living on each side. So communicating on both sides and getting a feedback from them it was a great thing, and it helped us a lot to organize our steps further. These are some of the cities that we visited. There were Tuzla, Banja Luka, Ugljevik, Bijeljina, Čelinac, Srebrenica, and Mostar. In some of these cities, even members of the Revolt were for the first time there. And for the end, we have guerrilla actions and the election silence. So on the election silence day prior to the election, we actually were out doing our guerrilla action in the morning. Of course, we carefully chosen the place where we're going to put up our marks and everything. And election day itself, like we did the campaign with Podlupom, we did also with Oštra Nula, and we took pictures with our promo material, our t-shirts on the election day after we voted. And also we called other people to go out and vote. These are our contact information, and really we would hope if anyone has any future projects that they see could work well with Revolt, could agree with Revolt's ideals, we will love if you would come forward to us. Of course, we will send you this all later. And now I believe the most exciting and the best time for me is questions and answer time, in case you have any questions, and I believe you have many, because it's very hard and confusing to explain things happening in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Now is your time to ask Anna and me. Yeah, Anna.
Now I see that people were asking questions while I was speaking.
Oh, okay.
And I couldn't catch them up when I was talking. So yeah, Mika is asking, do you think it's a good thing that position polling belongs to the personality and not the party? Well, actually, I don't know. There are some some situations when people in the party have an argument, and that can be justified or not, but they decide to kick someone out, or someone decides to leave. But if that one person was a good city councillor or whatever other position they held, I think it's okay for them to stay at the positions and not to leave and give that place to someone else who would, from their party, who was underneath the line. And then I don't see any other questions, more like comments.
Sorry, can I just add here? I think generally this is like a much bigger question when it comes to leaving your party if you're chosen for the parliament or for something higher than just a city councillor. City councillors are not that much, they are, but they are not that much actually connected to their party that gave them the place in the city council. That's just in my opinion. I don't know if Anna agrees, but when it comes to the parliament, then it makes a really, really big deal.
But also the law prescribes that if you get a place in some other level, that you cannot be at the same time, let's say, parliamentarian and a member of city council. You have to choose for only one spot.
Right. What is young by law? Like I said, the law of Bosnia and Herzegovina defines exactly what I said, the person from between 18 and 30 years.
There are some situations where youth is considered also the 35, but not like the usually.
Okay, so any other questions?
I think there is a question from Sebastian.
I haven't saw.
No, he just pointed himself, so it has a voice right now.
Yes. Good evening. So I think Anna mentioned that the elections took place later because of the budget wasn't adopted. Was it the budget of the whole federation, and is kind of the whole federation funding the local elections, or is it the municipalities or the regional entities like the cantons?
The elections are funded by the country's budget, or there are some commissions and institutions that work on each local and cantonal level, and those institutions are funded by those levels. We have this local electoral commission, and they are founded by the city of Tuzla, but this was a thing of the country's budget, and it was not adopted until the late June, but there's not a much better situation if it even was on the entities level, because the budget of Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, I think it only right now they are thinking of adopting it for the year of 2020.
So question from Mika, are there any laws that regulate how long the vote counting lasts? There is a law that says that we have to have results in a month, in a period of 30 days time from the election. So we had our final results on 15th of December. They were given by a central election committee. For Mostar, the things are different because we only had the elections 2 days prior. So they will have time until 20th of January to give us the results for the Mostar. But yes, it's regulated by law.
Yes, Sofa has a question.
Thank you. Yeah, first of all, thank you for this very insightful and very catchy presentation, and the work that you had done around the elections. I wanted to ask you to elaborate on the questions that were asked, because I won't understand very fully the video. So if you could elaborate on that, because I think this is super important, not only for increasing the political knowledge, but also holding the candidates also accountable. So one thing, what were more or less the questions you were asking? And second is there, I know that you kind of overviewed the green values and in action in the political spectrum in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but were there any candidates also leaning towards, and what were the prospects there?
Okay,
Thank you.
go with the questions for the candidates. Right now I cannot think not a single one, but we wrote them. They were like, do you remember, Anna?
Yeah, I remember. We were asking them what is the average budget of the city of Tuzla, since they were councillors, candidates for the councillors of the city of Tuzla. We asked them on when it comes to education, what level of the education belongs to the city of Tuzla. We asked them, I think, how many councillors are in the city of Tuzla and how they are being chosen. And we also wanted to check if they know that there is one spot that is saved for the minority groups. And all of them knew that. I mean, those were really good candidates that we had interviewed. We also asked what are the part of the cities who still don't have the drinking water provided by the by the city water company, since we still have some of those. I don't know, we had around 10 questions. Those are the ones that I can remember now. Maya maybe also remembers some. And maybe I should go to the second question that Safa asked. And those, if we know some politicians, individuals that are leaning to the green values, and currently I have no one on my mind.
I do have a few. So there were few, very, very low number, like maybe in Tuzla, I cannot say there were more than one or two. But if we look in general in Bosnia and Herzegovina, if we look at Sarajevo, because that's where I currently live, we had a little bit more of that. So up to, let's say, a number of some 10 politicians that had some green politics. But I have to say in Sarajevo, that came out mostly because currently they are having a crisis with the big city park that is being turned over into a building. So people are protesting about it, and that's why some of the politicians actually included some green politics into their campaign. But how much honesty was there, that's hard to say. Okay, a question from Kiki. Generally, the vote turnout was estimated as low. What is your opinion on this? Does the pandemic play a role in this, or and is it connected to the lack of trust in the political candidates? So I don't know now the exact number for the whole election. Like I said already, for Mostar it was 55%, and I already said my opinion, like that's as much as it has in Austria and Germany. So that's not actually, we cannot say too low, but it can be better. What bothers me the most is that we had a very low turnout of young voters. And we had a very low number of people who had their election right given to them actually this year or 2 or 3 years prior. The ones who are turning 18, let's say in some period of this time, they were not going to the elections, and they were our target group. That's who Revolt was doing for everything. So that was like really sad for me.
Okay, we still don't have like the general numbers of in the other cities of how many young people voted or not, but the overall voter turnout is 40%, and we do consider it low. And yeah, what are the causes? Well, definitely a lot of people no longer live in Bosnia and Herzegovina and still are registered to vote. Many of them moved away with the Bosnian passports, and they have a right to vote from outside of Bosnia. but many of them don't take that right, and we are kind of considering them as our next group that we or whom should we target, because what happens is when there's like a village and like only a couple of people living there, parties bring their people and go there and do frauds. Actually, I go in some place and they read on, I don't know, Maya's name, because Maya is maybe registered at that place, but I go and cast a vote. So I like steal Maya's vote. And that is happening all the time in the places where there are not a lot of people. But we also have like Bosnians who identify themselves as a Croat, have a right to the double passports, and many moved away with Croatian passports. And it's really hard for them to like register to vote from outside of Bosnia, because they are not living in Germany or wherever with Bosnian passports, and many don't even have that Bosnian passport. They just use the Croatian one and that's it. And also those are the people who cannot vote actually, but still are on the lists. So maybe the real number is not that low, like when you take all of those things into accountability. But I wouldn't put the blame on the pandemic. Yeah, for some people, of course, it played a role, but we had this mobile team, like mobile COVID team, and people could register themselves until the day of the elections by 9 in the morning. And if you have positive coronavirus test, or you have the prescribed self-isolation, then you can just show that to the people who were going to visiting those voters, and they would come to your home and you could vote from home. And of course, not a lot of people were actually recruited to be in a part of that mobile team, so they couldn't maybe visit all of those people who were self-isolating themselves. But yeah, I think they could manage to visit as much as possible.
Yeah, during the conversation with citizens in Mostar, that's exactly what they said, that some of them that we ran into that were first from Sarajevo or other cities in Bosnia that have already had elections, said that the COVID team, mobile team, was actually quite well unorganized and uncoordinated, so they couldn't vote. They didn't vote. They were registered, but the team didn't come, or they couldn't register because I believe the closing time for registering to vote over that team was 24 hours prior to the election. So it left that window of 24 hours for some people to actually get their tests positive or get the isolation, that they have to be in a self-isolation. So actually that was last minute thing done by a central voting committee and a central election committee, and it was very bad.
So Poe is asking, what about the falsifications on the elections? Is it common in Bosnia and Herzegovina? Especially I'm asking about the quarantine elections. In Belarus, it was the best possibility to falsificate. I'm curious to know about Bosnia and Herzegovina. This year, I think that it wasn't that present. Maybe in some smaller place or some places where national parties are like having a monopoly. But I think it was very fair because local elections aren't usually like that big of a deal for the political parties. But when it comes to general elections, we had situations from the last general elections where like by the end where they're about to close the voting place, that same spot goes out of the electricity. That means no lighting, and then they change the boxes and bring on the boxes with the falsificate ballots and remove the ones with the correct ballots. and ballots of what people actually casted in.
We had a situation in Srebrenica. Probably some of you heard, it's a city that had happened during the war, the genocide happened. And also there, the city is quite divided, like Mostar, but this time it's between Bosniaks and Serbian parties. So we had a quite huge falsification there. There was a police action later, and a lot of people, even the members of a left-wing party, were arrested because of the elections fraud. Also, we had arrestments in was it Bijeljina or no, Doboj, I'm sorry. Doboj had also, they will probably have some re-elections again. They will have to vote again because it's still undecided. Some of their opposition members have left, actually decided on the day of the elections that they will not be joining, they will not be participating in the elections because they thought their opinion was that the elections were entirely the fraud and they were already rigged. So they decided they don't want to be a part of it. They retrieved their
We also had a quite morbid situation in the municipality of Travnik, where the candidate of mayor who actually won passed away on the day of the elections. So they're like situations like that didn't happen prior that, and they had to come up with what to do now, because of course it's too expensive to go on and do all the voting and printing ballots and everything else once again. So they choose like a second person after him.
That's from Pope.
Yeah, thank you very much for answering. Sebastian has another question.
When the mayor is elected, does he gather kind of a team around him to govern the city, or are the other people in the city executive also elected through the parliament or through people?
So when it comes to like city halls, they have these quotas that they have to fulfill that are based on the constitution of Bosnia and Herzegovina. So basically, I think it has to be the percentage of people who live in that city has to have their representatives. So for example, like 30% of Croats live in Tuzla, so the city hall has to be fulfilled 30% by the Croat people and then on. But yeah, like it's complicated to say that about Tuzla because we have the same mayor for 20 years and we don't know how the gathering process goes. But we know that he is obliged like to keep some people, and he has his own team. Like he has this woman who deals basically with everything. She's like the chef of his cabinet. And she's dealing with all the calls that he has, like will he show up or not, or does all the important jobs. But there are like teams when it comes to preparation for the budget, teams for when it comes to infrastructural works, teams for all the kind of thingies he has to deal with. But yeah, all of them, like first thing they have to bear with is the quotas, and then they go like, are those people actually good for those positions or not?
Thank you. Any other questions, maybe? Okay, if there are no questions, we can slowly finish our amazing meeting. Thank you very much for this presentation, for answering our questions. It was really interesting. and see you next week on Tuesday. Yeah, Kiki wrote the presentation will be shared with everyone. Hooray! Yeah, see you next Tuesday. We will have Electionvision on Georgia, and then we will have a small New Year's party, online party. Yeah, Anamarija?
We will send you also the video, and we will send you like questions we ask them in English also for everyone to.
Amazing. Thank you.
And thank you all for coming and showing interest in the Bosnian elections. I wanted to say complicated, but these were fine. And see you in 2 years when there will be a lot of mess.
Thank you, girls.
Exactly. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak and for listening
Thank you.
for so long. Hopefully it was interesting.
Yeah, very.
And
See you.
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.